Well, for a change, you don't see me with props this month. No bags, no extra food, no suitcases. But pretend I got a suitcase. Because I am going to ask if anybody still has old suitcases at home that we can give to our walkers who come up to our outreach program. Please drop them off here or at the outreach table across the parking lot anytime. We need them. We are out of almost all the suitcases you brought a few months ago. So that's how fast they go. So we don't need any more bags, do we, Julie? We have about 1 million, literally 1 million. So thank you so much for doing that. It really shows how much you care about our outreach program. So what are we afraid of? What rips your hope away from you? Raises doubts about circumstances within you? And have you ever felt such bitter, repentant disappointment that caused you to hurt so much to have no hope? In the past couple years, we have been certainly tested our faith by many things. Maybe one of them, sickness, death, job losses, natural disasters, and even political turmoil. The pandemic, the war in Ukraine, and all the natural disasters exhaust us and can cause us to lose hope. For some, it may hurt too much to hope. So I suspect this is what Thomas felt in our gospel story today. Thomas' doubt was before he saw Jesus. His doubt was in the truth of the other apostles as they tell him that they saw Jesus. But he knew Jesus had been crucified and died. It wasn't possible with what they were saying. And as much as he might wanted it, his spirit had to be crushed. They are all living in fear with their hopes dashed. The events of the day had to be overwhelming, and I expect it hurt too much to hope. And then in walks Jesus. But Thomas understands. Jesus understands. He experienced doubts and pain and suffering in his humanity. He knew how Thomas was frustrated with the other disciples and how he was disappointed that Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday was followed by his exit from the city carrying the cross less than a week later. The Lord knew that Thomas was going he was going through, and he had mercy on him. The Lord knows what each of us is going through as well, and he has mercy on us as well. Jesus also knew how easy it was to lose hope when a crisis hits. And think about his words on the cross. My God, why have you abandoned me? Along with the physical pain, Jesus knew what it was like to feel completely abandoned. And all of his apostles, except one, had disappeared at the time of his greatest need. On Good Friday, though, we saw kindness, compassion, and love nailed to the cross. In this gospel, he comes to Thomas and to us to show us his wounds. When it hurts too much to hope, when life has wounded us, when we are exhausted in our faith, the risen Christ, with his disfigured wounds, is waiting to get into our wounded and disfigured lives. He knows our pain, he knows our feelings of abandonment, and from his sacrifice on the cross to the sacrifice at the altar, he wraps us in his mercy and love and makes us whole. Easter is a season of faith, and faith is all about belief. Belief in something greater than us. Belief especially in the face of adversity and fear. Belief when it all is darkness and there's no reason to believe. Belief even when it hurts too much to hope. Belief that leads us out of the darkness into the light of hope and joy. At Easter, Jesus turns on the lights of hope again. Jesus tells Thomas, "Blessed are those who have not seen and have believed." It's a request and a demand to each of us to have faith, to believe, even in the face of serious doubts and fears, even when it hurts too much to hope. And as we enter the Easter season, we are reminded also of the mercy of God on this Divine Mercy Sunday. We are called, particularly in times of struggle, to see beyond our fears and recognize the hope of our Lord Jesus. Jesus is patient with us, just as he was with Thomas. He understands our doubts, calms us with his words, "Peace be with you." He is well pleased with those who have total faith with no doubts, but is merciful to those who do have doubts. And he continues to call us to himself, his merciful love. He longs for us to take a step outside ourselves and our wants and recognize our need for his presence in our lives. He showers us with his graces, and then when we say, as Thomas did, "Jesus, you are my Lord and my God." In our gospel for Holy Thursday, an often overlooked statement is, he loved his own into the world, and he loved them to the end. He never stops loving us. He never lets go. Jesus came to us in humanity that we might come to know him. He suffered for us in his passion that we might be redeemed. He becomes fully present to us in the body, in blood, in soul and divinity through the Eucharist, that we might be fed and have everlasting life. God's mercy is so extensive that we can never be out of reach for his mercy. His love, his mercy, his hope never ends. In our outreach programs, every day we minister to people who find themselves in situations that have rendered them indecisive and paralyzed with fear. They find themselves filled with dismay, hopelessness, and feeling as though they are failures. They are hurting too much to hope. They may not know Jesus as we do. Now, more than ever, Jesus calls us, as he did the apostles, to send us out to those who are hurting. He calls us past our fears and to stand up and proclaim his love, his mercy, his hope. He calls us to become one with him in the new life as a child of God. He calls us to proclaim the oceans of grace as he pours out to those who seek his mercy and his inexhaustible love. The question for each of us to contemplate today is how each of us, as a disciple of Christ, can make known to the world, to the country, to our community, to make known the love, the mercy, and the hope of our Lord Jesus. And how can we move ourselves and others past the hurts, past the doubts, past the fears, to make tomorrow a little better? And do we, through our presence, our patience, and our persistence, help them to move forward? Do we give them a sense of hope? Do we engender them with the confidence to act with decisiveness and move forward in life with a renewed confidence? And are we the Jesus of the resurrection to those who are most in need?